What if the exact moment you stop chasing someone is the moment they cannot stop thinking about you? Not sometimes, not maybe, every single time. And here is the part nobody ever tells you about people who pull away in relationships. They are wired in a very specific way that makes your silence louder than your presence ever was. The moment you go quiet, something starts happening inside their mind that even they cannot fully explain. Something that has them picking up their phone at 2 a.m. just to stare at your name on the screen. By the time you finish reading this, you will know exactly what is going through their head, step by step, and more importantly, what you should actually do with that information. Before we get into it, I want you to do one thing right now. Drop the word silence in the comments. Just that one word. Tell me whether you are already in no contact with someone who pulls away or whether you are just thinking about it. Drop it below and let me know where you are in this, because your story genuinely matters, and I read every single one. Now let us get into this, because this is going to shift things for you in a real way. You have probably been in that place before. You are giving everything you have. You are showing up. You are sending the messages. You are being warm, loving, fully available. And somehow, the more you give, the more they drift. They pull back. They get cold. They go distant. And you keep wondering what you are doing wrong. You keep trying harder. You give more. You stay patient. You stay understanding. You stay available. And nothing works. So eventually you hit a wall. You get tired of it. Maybe someone tells you to just stop reaching out. So you do. Maybe reluctantly, maybe desperately, but you stop. You go quiet. And now you are sitting there wondering what is actually happening on their side. Are they even thinking about you? Do they care? Did they even notice that you stopped? Oh, they noticed. And here is where it gets really interesting. To understand what happens inside the mind of someone who pulls away when you stop contacting them, you first need to understand how their mind actually works, because it is not like yours. It does not operate the same way. And once you see this clearly, everything about their behavior is going to start making sense. Someone who pulls away in relationships developed that pattern for a very specific reason. Somewhere early in their life, usually long before they had the words for it, they learned that needing people leads to disappointment. They learned that getting too close means getting hurt, that depending on someone means eventually being let down. So their entire system, their entire internal wiring built a defense mechanism around that belief. Pull back before it gets painful. Create distance to feel safe. Suppress emotional needs to avoid being vulnerable. This is not something they choose consciously. This is a survival response that got built into their nervous system before they even had language to describe feelings. It runs automatically in the background of every relationship they are ever in. And here is the core of it. They have two completely opposite drives happening inside them at the same time. On one side, they have the same human need for connection that every person has. They want love. They want closeness. They want to feel wanted and valued, just like you do. On the other side, they have this deep, wired-in fear that closeness equals loss of self or eventual pain. So closeness feels threatening to them, even when it is genuinely good. These two drives are in constant tension inside them, and this never fully goes away. When you are around, consistently available, consistently reaching out, you were feeding the fear side of that tension. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your consistent presence was activating their defense system. The closeness started feeling like too much. Their instinct was to create space, to pull away and regulate the discomfort. And you probably felt that pulling and chased harder, which activated their defense even more, which made them pull further back. It is a loop, and it drains both people. But then you stopped, and now something entirely different is happening inside them. Let us walk through exactly what goes on, stage by stage. Stay with me all the way through, because each stage builds on the last, and the full picture only becomes clear when you see the whole thing. The first thing that happens when you stop reaching out is something that might feel insulting at first. They feel relief. Yes, relief. Do not let that hit you wrong. I know it stings. You want to hear that they immediately panicked and started missing you. But here is why that relief actually works in your favor. When you were consistently in contact, texting, calling, checking in, being emotionally present, their nervous system was in a constant low-level state of alert. Not because of you as a person, but because closeness itself triggers their defense wiring. The steady contact was something their system had to constantly manage and resist. When the contact stops, that pressure lifts. Their nervous system exhales, and they think for a brief moment that they were right all along. That space is better. That distance is where they feel okay. This relief phase does not last long, but it exists, and understanding it will save you from making a critical mistake. The mistake of reaching out again too soon just because the silence feels unbearable to you. Because if you reach back out during this relief phase, you confirm for them that distance works, that pulling back gets them what they want. So you have to let this phase pass. And it will, because what comes next is the first crack. This is where it starts getting really good.
After the relief settles, and this can take a few days or sometimes a couple of weeks depending on how deep the connection was, they start to notice something. The noticing starts quietly. It is not dramatic at first. It is subtle. They reach for their phone and realize there is no message from you. Something funny happens in their day, and their first instinct is to tell you, and then they remember you are not there right now. They see something that reminds them of you, a song, a place, a phrase, and there is a small internal pause. This is not the big emotional wave yet. This is just the first ripple. But it is significant, because for the first time, they are experiencing your absence rather than managing your presence. And there is a massive difference between those two things. When you were present, they were managing, regulating, keeping distance to stay comfortable. But now you are not there to manage. And so their mind starts moving toward you instead of away from you. For the first time, maybe in a long time, the motion is inward rather than defensive.
Now here is where their psychology does something really fascinating. Because their whole system is built around suppressing emotional needs, they do not immediately say to themselves, I miss this person, I want them back, I should reach out. That language is too vulnerable, too direct, too emotionally exposed. Instead, they start to rationalize the noticing. They think about you, but they wrap it in logic. They wonder how you are doing. They replay certain moments. They might check your profile online, not to reconnect, but just to check, just to satisfy a curiosity they will not fully admit to themselves. This rationalization is their emotional needs trying to surface while their defense system tries to keep them buried. It is like someone standing at a door they want to open, but telling themselves they are just checking if it is locked. And what makes your silence so powerful in this phase is that it does not give them an easy answer. When you are consistent and available, they know exactly where you stand. They know you are there.
They can suppress their own feelings because they know the door is always open when they decide to walk through it. But when you go quiet, that certainty disappears. And uncertainty is incredibly activating for the human mind, even a guarded mind. Actually, especially a guarded mind. Here is something counterintuitive about people who pull away. While they fear closeness when it is actively offered, they are deeply unsettled by the removal of it. Their logic says they want space. Their nervous system says they want to know you are still there. These two things contradict each other, and when you disappear, that contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. They start to feel a kind of anxious activation, which is almost ironic, right? The person who usually creates the anxiety is now the one experiencing it. They are now the one checking for signs, wondering what your silence means, questioning whether something has changed. And this is where their internal story starts to shift. Up until now, the story they were telling themselves was something like this. This person wants too much from me. I need space. I feel crowded. I am better with distance. But now, without your presence to push against, that story starts to lose its footing. Because you cannot build a story about needing space from someone who is no longer there. So what are they left with? They are left with the actual feelings underneath the defense. And those feelings, when they finally surface without the defense drowning them out, often look like this. I wonder if I pushed them away. I wonder if I was too cold. I wonder if they are okay. I wonder if they found someone else. I wonder if I made a mistake. This is the moment of genuine emotional reckoning for someone like this, and it only becomes possible because you are no longer there giving their defense system something to push against. Now let us talk about what is happening in their body during this time. Because attachment is not just mental, it is physical. When we form a bond with someone, our nervous systems actually become tuned to each other. We regulate each other's emotional states without even realizing it. When you are calm, their system responds to that. When you are warm, their system registers it, even if their behavior does not show it. When you remove yourself, even temporarily, their nervous system notices the gap. Something is missing in their daily emotional landscape that they have been conditioned to, and their body registers it before their conscious mind can name it. This is why they sometimes describe feeling off, or restless, or vaguely unsettled without being able to say exactly why. They are not consciously connecting it to you, but their body is absolutely connecting it. And this physical restlessness starts feeding the mental questioning. These two things build on each other. Stay with me, because this next part is where it gets really powerful. Around this point, which might be a week, 2 weeks, sometimes longer depending on how deep the connection was, they start doing something they would rarely do when you were in contact. They start idealizing. This is not a trick. This is a genuine psychological shift. When someone is present and available, a guarded person focuses on what feels threatening about the closeness. They notice the pressure, the expectation, the vulnerability required. These become their dominant mental notes. But when that person is absent, those threatening elements disappear too. What is left behind is the memory of connection without the feeling of threat. And so, the mind begins to remember the good parts, the warmth, the laughter, the moments that felt genuinely beautiful, the feeling of being truly known by someone. Specific scenes start rising to the surface. A conversation at 2 a.m. that went somewhere unexpectedly real. A moment when you made them laugh out of nowhere. A time when you understood something about them that nobody else seemed to get. These memories carry weight now, and without the daily business of managing your presence to push them back down, they land differently. This is when they start to genuinely miss you. Not in the quiet, intellectual, I notice the absence kind of way, but in the felt, this actually hurts kind of way. And this is also when a second internal conflict starts showing itself. Because missing you feels like exactly the kind of vulnerability they have spent their whole life protecting themselves from. Feeling this much, needing someone this much. It is uncomfortable in a way that goes very deep for them. It touches the original wound, the one that taught them that needing people leads to pain. So what do they do with that discomfort? They do what they always do. They try to manage it. And they usually start with what I call the justification loop. They cycle through reasons why what they are feeling is not what it seems. They tell themselves things like, I am just used to the routine. I do not actually miss them specifically. It is just habit. I would feel this way about anyone I stopped talking to. I am just having a lonely day. This is their defense system working hard to reframe a genuine emotional need as something smaller, something dismissible, something manageable. But here is the thing about that justification loop. It only works for so long, because the feelings keep coming. Each time they push them down and reframe them, the feelings come back a little stronger, a little more insistent, because the truth underneath is real, and real things have a way of persisting. And as the justification loop starts failing, something else begins. They start asking themselves a question that changes everything. Did I mess this up? This question is enormous for someone like this. Their whole protective identity is built around not having to answer it, around being self-sufficient, around not needing anyone badly enough to have made a mistake by letting them go. But when your silence holds, when you do not come back with another message or another demonstration of your feelings, they cannot answer the question by default. They cannot just say, no, I did not mess it up. They are still here, because you are not still here. And so the question lingers. It gets louder, and it starts pulling other questions up with it. Was I too cold? Did I give them enough? Did I take them for granted? Did my distance push them away? Do they think I do not care? Do they think I feel nothing? These questions are extraordinarily uncomfortable for someone like this to sit with. They have spent their entire adult life keeping emotional stakes low enough that these questions never really had to matter. But something about this particular silence from you is making it matter. And here is exactly why. Because the length of your no contact, the steadiness of your silence, communicates something that all your words and all your demonstrations of love could never communicate while you were still there. It communicates that you have a limit, that you will not wait around forever, that your presence is not unconditional, that you have a sense of your own worth that goes beyond even how much you care about them. And this is something they have almost certainly never experienced before from someone they genuinely cared about. Because usually the people who care about guarded, distant types stick around. They tolerate the distance. They accept the inconsistency. They keep showing up. They keep trying. And while that shows love, it also quietly confirms the belief that emotional unavailability has no real consequence. People stay regardless. But you stopping contact interrupts that belief entirely. It introduces a variable their system never accounted for. It says, actually, your emotional unavailability does have a consequence, and I am now enforcing it. And this is deeply, genuinely unsettling for them. Not in a manipulative sense, not in a game sense, in a real, I may have lost something that actually mattered to me sense. Now, here is something that most people never see because it happens entirely internally, and someone like this will almost never talk about it openly. They start rehearsing mentally, in private, in the quiet moments of their day. They start thinking about what they would say if they reached out to you. They draft messages in their heads. They imagine conversations. They think about how they would explain themselves, what they would even want to say. And this internal rehearsal is significant because it shows that they are moving toward you, not away from you. For the first time, the direction of their mind is closing the gap rather than maintaining it. But they do not send those messages. They do not make that call. And here is why. Because even with all of this internal movement, their core fear has not disappeared. The fear of vulnerability. The fear of rejection. The fear that if they reach out and you do not respond the way they hope, it will confirm exactly what they have always believed. That needing people leads to pain. So they hover. They write and erase. They pick up the phone and put it back down. They go to your profile without doing anything. They are in this in-between space where the desire to reach out is growing, but the fear of what reaching out means is still very present. And this hovering phase is one of the most important moments of your no-contact period. Because what you do, or more precisely, what you continue not to do during this phase, makes all the difference. If you break the silence now, if you reach out while they are still hovering, you immediately relieve the tension.
You relieve it before they have fully reckoned with their own feelings, before they have sat with the question of what they might lose, before they have arrived at a moment of genuine choice. By staying quiet, you are not being cruel. You are not playing a game. You are giving them the only environment in which they can actually hear themselves. Because your presence will always activate their defense system before they can reach the real feelings underneath. The silence is the only space in which those real feelings get a chance to surface. And what they start to hear in that silence, the thing that usually gets completely drowned out by their distance and their self-sufficient story, is the truth of how much this connection actually meant to them. No contact affects people like this more deeply than most people ever realize. At first, there is relief, but over time, something genuine shifts inside them. They begin comparing the version of you who was always chasing, always available, always seeking their validation, with the version of you who is now quiet, grounded, and no longer orbiting around them. And strangely, this version of you feels safer. Not because withdrawing attention is some kind of tactic that tricks them, but because someone who is emotionally grounded and not dependent on their responses feels less threatening to their nervous system. Your silence forces them to imagine a future without you in it. Before, they assumed you would always be there. Now they feel the weight of your absence in a way that is completely new for them. For some people, this becomes the moment they finally reach out. But this is exactly where many people make a big mistake. Someone guarded reaching out does not automatically mean they have changed. Missing you is real. Wanting connection is real. But desire without genuine growth almost always leads back to the same painful cycle. If they do come back, the dynamic has to be different. Warm, but with clear limits. Open, but self-respecting. No more chasing. No more shrinking yourself to manage their comfort. Because real no contact was never about making someone miss you. It was never about pulling a lever to get a reaction. It was about finding yourself again. It was about stopping the obsessing over their responses, reconnecting with your own life, your friendships, your goals, your peace. And in doing that,
you become capable of something healthier, whether with them or with someone entirely new. The hard truth is this: not every guarded, avoidant person comes back. Some feel deeply and still choose distance because vulnerability feels more frightening to them than loss does. And as painful as that is, someone who feels something but consistently cannot act on it is still someone who cannot meet your needs. So the real question was never, will they return? The real question is, who are you becoming during the silence? Because if they return, and they have genuinely done the inner work, you build something completely different together. Something built on honesty and real presence rather than chasing and defending. And if they do not return, you leave that chapter stronger, clearer, and more whole than when you entered it. No contact is not a punishment. It is not a strategy. It is not a manipulation. It is self-respect made visible. It is the moment you finally stop abandoning yourself in hopes that someone else will choose to stay. The goal was never to make them miss you. The goal was always to stop losing yourself. Keep watching. Your next breakthrough might be closer than you think.